Okay, so I just did some very interesting work on chapter 1 of my book, and I thought for what's the word? Nostalgia reasons. Like this is just for me. This is pure vanity. This video, and I might make it private if I decide that it's not useful for anybody, or if I don't get any views, I'll be like, okay, whatever. But it is kind of like a writing course, I would say. I'd say it's worth other people's perusal just for that. Or if you perusal, I mean, does perusal just does it just what's the word? Fuck, man. Apply. Does it just apply to reading, or can you say perusal like when you're, watching a video? Anyways, if it's useful and if somebody can give advice, that's cool too. Otherwise, I'll just make it private. I'm very excited though, so here we go. And this is like a writing course. And also I'm going to talk about Ghostbusters and Dirty Dancing and Star Wars and Donnie Darko at the end. And I'm going to try to liken it to the coronavirus. Now, when I say I wrote the first chapter, that doesn't sound as pathetic as it is, considering that I've worked on the thing for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Because I pretty much... I'm a structuralist. I'm a plotter, not a pantster. And, hold on a second. That was my air conditioner in the background. I was wondering why it was so loud. Essentially, you got people who are plotters. I didn't think of this term, but I guess it works. Plotters versus pantsters. Plotters being people who, figure out the story versus pantsters who fly by the seat of their pants. Stephen King and Charles Dickens would be pantsters. Charles Dickens was paid by the word, and it shows. I think most of his books are kind of crappy. Dostoevsky was a pantster in the sense that he didn't really plot things out. He let the shit flow, and it tends to be more fluid. But I've actually only read one book in entirety by Charles Dickens. It was called The Old Curiosity Shop. And what amazed me about that book was that he brought in one character early on, and then you never see the character afterwards. Because he's just designing this thing as he goes. And I don't really appreciate that. I mean, I don't know. In Dostoevsky's case, I'm like, okay, I don't really give a shit what your plot is. There's plot holes in every Dostoevsky. His plots are a disaster. But his characters are just so strong. That's what you're reading it for. And you'd be mistaken if you were looking for a plot there. But I'm a plotter, and every time I write anything, even like a chapter or a sentence within my book, it might change the structure of the entire thing, and then I might have to go back and change a million things. Anyway, so I'm going to go over this, and this is going to be changed a million times, this chapter 1, but it gives me a lot of insights. So I'm going to read it, and I'm going to tell you the insights I had while I wrote it, and you're going to find it interesting if you have any interest in writing. Okay, chapter 1, how heaven found out. Okay. In heaven there was no fire and everything was good. That was until the local angel paperboy threw the newspaper past the brass gates. The front page said, okay, the first thing I'm just going to say about all of this. Okay, in heaven there was no fire and everything was good. So that means when I mention hell, I'm going to say there's tons of fire and everything was bad. So this is why I say it all has to go together, So this is why this will alter other chapters, and then I might have to alter this one to match the other one. It's like poetry; they rhyme. Until the local angel paperboy, it's kind of funny, like an angel paperboy. That might go, it might stay. Depends. Can I draw more from that? Through the newspaper, past the brass gates, okay, because heaven is like a shitty place, so it's not even golden gates, that they're brass. Front page said, today's news, the devil has a son. Even he did not know. Below the headline was a picture of a teenager sitting on a park bench reading the newspaper. So he's reading the news that he's the devil's son. A group of high-ranking angels, and I've realized, and I looked it up, high-ranking angels are called, the highest are the seraphims, and the second medium-sized angels are archangels. Anyways, I'm going to have to change that. A group of high-ranking angels convened to discuss and deliberate the news. And I also have to consider whether I'm going to use the words discuss or deliberate. Maybe it'll just be a group of high-ranking angels convened or joined together to talk, or a group of high-ranking angels, a group of archangels and seraphims talked about the news. It might just be that. Okay. Is this bad news? Said an archangel. and then in brackets, middle class angel. Maybe I'll just do that just to inform the reader, because I don't like to be pretentious and be like, everybody should know what an archangel is. Frowning. A seraphim, bracket, high class angel. Because again, I don't want people to necessarily have to pull out the dictionary. Laughed. I didn't know what that meant until I looked it up. A seraphim laughed a tear. I think that's kind of cool. Laughing a tear, because that makes sense. Bad news for us. In the question of bad news, I was almost thinking of putting in any news is bad news, but that's a little cheap, so I'm not going to go there. The angels looked over at God's door. There was a necktie on the doorknob and a loud snore from within. See, that has to be fixed up. The angels looked at each other in silence. A young angel with a mortar board, bracket, graduation cap, and a halo ran up to them. So I looked up, well, what do you call a graduation cap? Like when you graduate college, those things with the stupid little tassel? It's called a mortar board, which is very interesting. So you learn something new every day. So a young angel with a mortar board and a halo ran up to them. Hey guys, hello, sirs. Nice to meet you. I look forward to working with you, or for you, and I cannot wait to help do some good. The angels looked at his mortar board and his, I love saying that, and his halo. None of them had either. So I'm indicating that none of the angels have halos. Only the new guy. And I should be more explicit with that. The angels looked at his mortar board. No, I already said that. I think you should have the honor, said the archangel, handing the young angel the newspaper. God would love to meet you. So basically, like, who's going to tell God the news? Let's give it to the new guy. Okay. God would like to meet you. God would like to meet you. The young angel looked at the newspaper. No, said the seraphim. Yes, he should do it, said the archangels. I can do it, said the young angel, and off he went. The seraphim held his head low. The archangels watched as he entered God's bedroom. They waited and stared at the floor for what felt like an eternity. There was a crash of thunder from within God's bedroom. Then a moment of silence. I have to fill in all of this with some descriptions you gotta take like a paragraph to let it like sink in. The door slowly opened and the young angel emerged with his head held low. His halo was gone. He had tears in his eyes and he ran past them. The angels looked at each other and then looked down at the cloud floor carpet. That could be funny. The seraphim looked at them in anger. That night the seraphim, it's hard to say that, tried to sleep, but could not get the image out of his head of the young angel's sadness and defeat. The seraphim silently sneaked into God's bedroom as God noisily snored. Nasally snored, how about that? Nasally snored. That's kind of cool. I'm going to put that in right now. Nasally snored. As if there's a different way to snore, though. Okay. And the whole scene of him sneaking in should take up a big long paragraph, not just one sentence. The walls of God's bedroom were adorned with halos, hundreds of halos. The seraphim gently stole 6 halos. It might be 7. I don't know the number. Then for a moment God awoke. The seraphim froze, so just like a moment of suspense, just for the fuck of it. Just to show that it's like serious what he's doing. But then God rolled over and back to sleep, muttering gibberish. The seraphim went to the archangel of artifice. So this is where I stole from the Iliad. But I wouldn't say stole. It's not like plagiarized. I like the way it's written, and I'm not stealing the ideas. I'm stealing the verbiage, the use of language. Anyways, this is so I stole this from the Iliad, where fucking Achilles' mother asks Hephaestus to make new armor for Achilles, and he makes it. And it also, like, this is also based on when Tywin Lannister melted Ned Stark's sword down, and how it's like it took up a good few minutes of the TV show at the beginning. So the seraphim went to the archangel of artifice, who of course also had no halo. I don't like. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be saying "of course" or I'm going to be using old-fashioned shit. But here's the old-fashioned shit. And presented the halos and told the story. The archangel of artifice went unto his bellows. This is directly stolen from the Iliad. Went unto his bellows and turned them upon the fire and bade them work. And the bellows blew on the cruciples, sending deft blasts on every side, now to aid in the labor, and now anon, howsoever the archangel of artifice willed, and the work went on. The archangel of artifice wrought a golden compass, that's mine, and laid it before the seraphim. Without wings outstretched, the seraphim dove down from heaven, bearing from the archangel of artifice the golden compass. So what was interesting to me is the idea of stealing from great works, but it's not really like low-class stealing, because it's just like stealing their verbiage, their phrases and whatnot. Like the word wrought, W-R-O-U-G-H-T. We're not really stealing that word, I'm just using it. Because it kind of fits the tone of the thing, right? It is like fucking angels and devils and whatnot. It is holy, it's religious in tone to some degree. I could understand anyone thinking that this is nonsense and this thing will never get done. But I've already finished a few books and stories before, so I'm confident. Once you've done it before, you know you can do it again. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the movies. And the way that I tie this into COVID and Amber Heard is this is my fight. Art is the fight, is the best way to fight COVID and Amber Heard. And Amber Heard represents shitty stories. Shitty, like, art being used to make shitty crap. Oh, but before that, I'd just like to say I think I've decided that instead of asking for Patreon money from people in the long term, because that sounds like charity, I'm just going to say, buy my book, and I'm going to make my shit exclusive, and then I'll say, give me $20 on fucking Patreon, and then I'll give you my book. And then that way it feels like it's earned. And it should feel like that. I'm not a fucking beggar. I'm putting a lot of work into this shit. Okay, so Dirty Dancing. Okay, first, I was talking about how Twilight is like a young teenage girl's dream come true. Because it's like, oh, werewolves are fighting over me and vampires are fighting over me and it's all about me and I'm just a regular girl. So it's like every girl's dream. And very similar to Twilight is the movie Dirty Dancing, which I always liked when I was growing up. I used to watch it with my sister when I was a kid. And but I revisited that movie like maybe 10 years ago. And it's very interesting watching it as an adult. Because it's just like, it's a fun movie. It's good and everything. But it's like pushing all the right buttons for every young girl. Okay, so like, you're an awkward young girl and nobody accepts you. And, you don't know how to dance. And then you meet this guy, Johnny, who doesn't think much of you and you have to prove yourself to him. And he knows how to dance. And he's sexy and everybody likes him. All the bad people like him, like all the tough guy, the cool kids like him. And, but you have an opportunity to, get to know him. And he's going to teach you how to dance. And what could be, like, better than that? If you're a young girl, you can meet this guy who's a bad boy, and he's going to teach you how to dance. And everybody thinks, like, your parents hate him, but you know that he has a heart of gold. He's actually a really nice guy. And I don't remember any other details except that it's just like the perfect... It couldn't have been tailor-made more for young girls. I mean, it's just so perfect. And she's the only one that knows that Johnny's actually a nice guy. And what I wanted to say about Star Wars, Ghostbusters, and Donnie Darko is that those three movies are movies that were accidentally perfect. George Lucas, Star Wars, it was a shambles. The thing was a mess. Brian De Palma told him to have the crawl at the beginning. Otherwise, because he's like, what the hell? People aren't going to know what the hell's going on. You have to, like, have an opening crawl that just says what's going on, like, because you're introducing them to this new world. So that, if it wasn't for that, it might not have worked. He also got John Williams to write the most memorable score ever, which was also like very lucky. I mean, if he didn't have John Williams writing the music, who knows how it would have felt with bad music. And by the way, I found out that John Williams based the Darth Vader theme song, bom 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 ba bom bom ba bom. He basically plagiarized that, but whatever, everybody does. On what is it? Bom 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 ba bom ba bom ba bom. It's called Bolero. Bum bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. It's exactly the same though. And it's not even a secret. Like he readily admits it. Okay, so and then Ghostbusters. That was Ghostbusters, Star Wars, and Donnie Darko were like accidents where everything just seemed to work out accidentally. Otherwise, it would have been nothing. Ghostbusters. How lucky were they to get that theme song? Who are you gonna call? Dum 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 dum. Very, very lucky. So that was perfect. The casting was perfect, right? They got all these comedians that just seemed to work. Everything just worked so well. And then the story, okay, is perfect because they start a ghost business, and then they find out in the subplot where he's dating this girl. You find out that she lives right where the main thing is happening. So it allows all the plots to come together so perfectly. And you think they're just Ghostbusters, but then you find it's just they're just lucky that they're catching ghosts. But then you find out there's a reason that there's all these ghosts, because the plot thickens. And you could never make that movie otherwise. I mean, it's an accident. None of the people involved in that movie were ever able to create anything approaching the level of Ghostbusters, except for Bill Murray, and I guess Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, right? Groundhog Day and What About Bob were pretty perfect. So maybe they were the real geniuses behind the thing. Ivan Reitman sure as hell didn't make anything. I don't even know any other movie that he made, really. What else did he make? I don't know. Anyways, and then Donnie Darko, which is really, really funny. I watched the audio commentary for Donnie Darko, the director's cut, where he puts the music that he actually wanted but couldn't afford, like in excess, and it's awful. So the music in Donnie Darko was the budget music because he couldn't afford the music he wanted. But all the music that he accidentally got because he couldn't get the shit he wanted was perfect for that movie. And then I've watched his other movies after that. He made a movie called The Gift with Cameron Diaz and Robert Loggia? Robert, the guy, never mind. LaPlacia. Anyways, that movie wasn't a big deal. And then he made another one called South. It was with The Rock and what's his name? Fuck. It was called Southland Tales. John Lovitz, The Rock, Justin Timberlake. I mean, it's a fun movie, and you can see that it's the guy that made Donnie Darko, but it didn't have the magic that Donnie Darko had. And again, that was an accident. My point here is that Hollywood is not worth one accident in a million. That doesn't justify its existence. Avengers Endgame and Infinity War were perfect. I'm not sure they were accidents, but it doesn't compensate for the shitty movie, the 100 other shitty movies there are. One good movie doesn't compensate for 100 shitty movies. Doctor Strange was shit. They were all shit. Thor: The Dark World was shit. Most of them were shit. Iron Man 2 was shit. Iron Man 3 was forgettable. There's not a lot of good Marvel movies, to be honest. It's just like you watch them because you know they're part of a greater whole, and that's the only reason you watch them. Nobody would have watched Ant-Man if it wasn't part of the greater universe. So don't bet on accidents. Bet on actual people that have ability. If you like gays, click like. If you like blacks, comment. If you like women, click notification bell. If you like gay women, subscribe. And if you like gay black women, Patreon, human warnings, give me money. Okay, after credits scene. I was thinking about how I think it's so awesome that humans all have to stay indoors and the animals can go out and play. How awesome that is. It's everything I've ever wanted, really. Humans suck. And then I was thinking how the reason humans have to stay inside is because they fucked with animals. right? They played Frankenstein with animals in China. They were putting all these animals together, and that's how the virus started, because they wanted to eat every single animal. Like, I want a salamander, ferret sandwich. With kitten paws on top and dog's eyeballs in the middle. Oh, and a shark fin beside my fortune cookie for good luck.